Hello and welcome to the BA Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brady Hour, and I am going to take you through the 2026 running back preview today. Going to be going through rankings, sleepers, breakouts, and busts, and then some league winners and draft strategy to round it out. So, without further ado, let's get into the episode.
Sit back and relax. We about to take a trip. Yeah. Just sit back and relax. We about to take a trip. Going up, busting out the lit. Just sit back and relax. We about to take a trip. Yeah. Yeah. Just sit back and relax. We about to take a trip. Yeah.
All right. Welcome to the BA Sports Podcast. We are live on YouTube, live on X, and live on Instagram. So be sure to leave a comment if you have any questions throughout the episode. We'll try and get to those questions, whether it's rankings, draft strategy, any questions about sleepers, breakouts, or busts you may have. Happy to answer them. Let's get right into my top 24 running back rankings, and we can get into that real quick. Starting off, tier one is going to be the tier of Jameer Gibbs and Bijan Robinson. Those guys are pretty much consistently the top two running backs, and I'm not differing from that. Jameer Gibbs, I believe, is the RB1. Bijan Robinson is the RB2. And then tier two, we get into Jonathan Taylor, Chase Brown. Those two guys are 3 and 4, and then James Cook and Ashton Genty at 5 and 6. I'm really excited to draft Chase Brown and Ashton Genty the most out of this tier. I think both of them have top three potential, and those are the guys I'm targeting the most in this tier. Cook is another guy I'm comfortable taking early, but I mean, Genty and Chase Brown by far the top two on my list in this tier. Tier three is going to be Devon Achan, Christian McCaffrey, and Omarion Hampton. Now, I know Christian McCaffrey is definitely lower than a lot of experts probably have him. I just am going to get into that later when I get into the busts. I called the Saquon bust last year after he was the number one running back in touches, and just figured he could not produce at a high level again. And I think it's going to be the same thing with McCaffrey. We'll get into that a little later. The guys I'm excited the most out of this tier are coming at the back end: Omarion Hampton and Kenneth Walker. As you can see, I'm a little higher than consensus and ADP on both Kenneth Walker and Omarion Hampton. That rounds out my tier three: Achan, McCaffrey, Omarion Hampton, and Kenneth Walker. And then tier four, guy Saquon, I probably should be a little higher on. Hello, Presley. How's it going? And honestly, I like where he's going. I would draft him in round two at the end of round two. Derrick Henry and then Kyron Williams are going around that range as well. Don't feel as great about them. Feel a little more, I mean, sorry, they're consistent, but they won't have your league winning upside that some of these other players do, like Kenneth Walker, like Omarion Hampton, hence why they're going a lot earlier. But give me Kyron Williams, give me Derrick Henry late round two, early round three. I like Javante Williams in round three. That's going to round out my tier four. Saquon, Derrick Henry, Kyron Williams, Javante Williams. And then tier five, Josh Jacobs. Question mark surrounding Josh Jacobs. Will he get suspended? Who knows? Jeremiah Love, definitely lower than him, than other people. As you can see, I'm three ranks lower than consensus and ADP. I will get into that later. I just don't like the injuries surrounding Jeremiah Love. All the competition for touches he's got to compete with is a little tough for my liking. So I've moved him down to RB16, but he is in my tier 5. The guys I like the most, once again, at the back end of this tier, Brees Hall, Bashal Tutin. Bashal Tutin, as you can see, I am super high on him. I'm 6 ranks higher than consensus, expert consensus, and I'm also 7 ranks higher than ADP. That is my tier 5. I'd feel comfortable taking Bashal Tutin at the back end of round 4, maybe mid round 4, definitely round 5. Feel very comfortable about taking Bashal Tutin. Cam Scattaboo starts off tier 6 at rank 19. I'm pretty even on consensus there. Quinshon Judkins, I've got a RB20. Bucky Irving, RB21. DeAndre Swift, RB22. A guy that I think is being undervalued in this tier is DeAndre Swift. I might need to move him a little up a little bit because I think he can be a top 20 running back, maybe even push into the top 15 running backs. Kyle Monanga is dealing with an injury right now, and we don't know if he's going to be fully healthy to start the season. DeAndre Swift's going to be the clear horse back in this backfield. He did well last year. He's consistently performing and putting up numbers as a solid RB2 option for your fantasy team. So if there's no other options, feel great about taking DeAndre Swift whenever it comes for your RB2. Tier 7, I'm gonna stop after this tier because I think tier 8 and tier 9, etc., just gets a lot. So I'm only gonna cover the top 26. 23, I've got Travis Etienne, David Montgomery at 24, Jadarian Price at 25, and Jonathan Brooks at 26. Definitely more excited about Brooks and Price at the end of this tier. Etienne, as you can see, I'm lower on consensus than the rest of the field. I've got Etienne at RB23, 5 lower than consensus, expert consensus. What up, Bryson? How's it going? David Montgomery, also lower than consensus, and that is going to round out my tier 7 and my top 26 running backs. Definitely, if you're picking one or two, you're going Gibbs and Bijan, no doubt about it. If you're not, I really question your judgment. So that is going to do it for the rankings. You can find my rankings on the BA Sports Podcast website at BA Sports Podcast on Instagram, and then at BA Sports Podcast on X. You can find the rankings on the rankings page on mailerpage.io. Just Google mailerpage.io BA Sports Podcast and you'll find it there. Let's get into the sleepers, breakouts, and busts, and then we'll go into the draft strategy for running backs. So sleepers, these are some guys you can get later in drafts. I'm even going to include DeAndre Swift in this just because I think he's great value, kind of in the middle of drafts right now. His ADP currently is, let's see where DeAndre Swift's going. DeAndre Swift's going 49th overall. So end of round 4, beginning of round 5 is when Swift's going. RB22, which is crazy. He's got probably the most solid floor out of any guy in this range. So he finished as RB18, RB15, RB21, RB20, RB19, and RB15 in PPR leagues. That is a top 24 running back every single year. He has never finished below RB21 in the PPR league. He's currently going RB22. So I think he's being drafted at his floor. Definitely can exceed his draft position and get a higher ceiling for you at an RB2 cost, which is great value. And then you can focus on wide receiver after that. I really don't want to try and draft more than uh 1 or 2 starting running backs after round 5. Preferably have both of your starting running backs drafted before round 5 or at round 5. Once it gets past round 5, it's really, really scarce out there in the running back world. Most of them will be taken, and you're just kind of be throwing darts at the board, hoping one of them is going to hit. So that's my sleeper number 1, DeAndre Swift. I think he's great value at costs. And I think honestly, he can provide you league winning upside at that cost of RB22. Now let's get into some other sleepers. Rashad White. So this is especially good for PPR leagues. He averages 51 catches per year. He's played 16 plus games in each of his 4 seasons. He's got an ADP of about RB 40, and he's finished RB 36 or higher every year. He's finished RB 36, RB 4, RB 22, and RB 32 in his first 4 seasons. Definitely more enticing in PPR formats. They're going to give Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt the run of the mill for the first couple of downs, I'd say. But once it gets to third down, I think Rashad White's coming in. He's going to be that passing down back, third down back. Does he get more work on the goal line? That would be something to see. I don't know if Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt has fully won over this coaching staff. Now he is younger, so I guarantee you this coaching staff's going to want to give him as much run as possible. But Rashad White's someone who can definitely take touches away and someone you can get super late. Like I said, he's RB 40 in drafts for ADP, and he's finished RB 36 or higher every single season. And he gives you those healthy games, 16 plus games in each of his first 4 seasons. So I think Rashad White is great value going later in drafts. If you need to take a flyer on a running back late in PPR leagues, definitely look for Rashad White. Another sleeper I really like, Jordan Mason of the Minnesota Vikings. He is going to be the running downs guy with Aaron Jones playing on third down most likely. So Aaron Jones is kind of going to be the Rashad White third down back. 27 years old for Jordan Mason. Great value later on in drafts. He's RB 37, 101st overall. I like to get him around this range, maybe even take him in the 90s just because of what I like to see this year out of this offense. More familiar with this run scheme. This new O line coach, Frank Smith, is retooling the run game for this Minnesota Vikings offense, which will cater more to outside zone runs. Jordan Mason on outside zone runs averages 5.6 yards per carry on 171 career attempts compared to 4.7 yards per carry on all other run concepts. That's nearly 1 yard per carry more on outside zone runs because of this familiarity with the outside zone running scheme. I like Jordan Mason in this offense. They're going to have it revamped. Kyler Murray is going to be commanding the offense and hopefully getting Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison on track. It's going to be the best weapons of Kyler Murray's career. I like this offense. I like the Minnesota Vikings to turn it around in a very competitive division, the NFC North, with the Bears, the Lions, the Vikings. I think even the Packers, everyone's going to be competitive, but I really like Jordan Mason this season, the guy you can get late and people are sleeping on. Another guy you can get super late that I think is a great handcuff, Tank Bigsby. I think this offensive line is going to be improved just because they're going to be fully healthy this year. I might even move Saquon up a little bit just because I'm looking and reading about this offensive line, and they're saying, they're at full strength, and if they're healthy, I think these running backs will provide great value later in drafts, like Tank Bigsby. So look out for Tank Bigsby. If you draft Saquon Barkley, definitely take Tank Bigsby as a handcuff just because Saquon could be prone to injury. But I like the Eagles' run game this year. Jonathan Brooks is a guy that I wanted to classify as a sleeper. I don't know if I can justify him as a sleeper with his ADP rising after the Chuba Hubbard injury. But right now, he's RB 33, 90th overall. Yeah, or he's moved up to 89th overall on Fantasy Pros per the ADP data. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if I can justify him as a sleeper, but as he's moving up draft boards, people are reaching really hard for him. But if you can get him after round 8 through 10, um, I'd say that is a great cost for Jonathan Brooks, who looks to rebound after a shaky start to his career due to just being injury riddled all over the place. Now let's get into breakouts. One of my favorite guys of the year, flag plant guy. I think he is a league winner, is Bashal Tutin. Like I said, I'm higher than consensus rankings on him. Sixth rankings higher than the expert consensus rankings. So starting out, Bashal Tutin is ADP of 25 overall. I have him RB 18. There are 260 vacated rushing attempts in this Jacksonville Jaguars offense, and I believe Bashal Tutin is going to get the workhorse load of these touches, just like Travis Etienne did last year. Now, they did add Chris Rodriguez, who Liam Cohen is familiar with had a rap with him in college at Kentucky. Chris Rodriguez and Liam Cohen were definitely familiar faces from back then. So it people, I understand you're scared about Bashal Tutin, but I just love what Liam Cohen does for running backs. He loves to scheme them up. The Jags, especially in the passing game, the Jags ranked fourth last year in the NFL in screen routes for running backs, and ETN only trailed Christian McCaffrey in screen routes and targets. And remember how I mentioned Rashad White finishing RB22 earlier? That is all due to Liam Cohen when he had 6 receiving touchdowns that year when Liam Cohen was in Tampa Bay. Liam Cohen also had Bucky Irving in that breakout season for Bucky. This is great value as your RB2. I'd be a little more worried if he was your RB1, but I feel comfortable taking him in round 4. Definitely later in round 4, middle round 4, might be able to get him, but I think late round 4, early round 5, I would grab Bashal Tutin because I think he is breaking out this year, and I would love to see him on my fantasy teams throughout all my leagues. Next guy I think is going to break out is Omarion Hampton of the Los Angeles Chargers. I am fully buying into this Chargers offense. Mike McDaniel showed you what he can do with an elite running back talent in Devon Achane. Achane had 2 RB1 finishes in 2024 and 2025. Achane also has an RB1 finish in points per game in 2023 alongside Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert finished as a top 5 running back as an RB1 in 2023, and him and Achan both in points per game were top 5 for running backs. So Mike McDaniel has shown you over the last 3 years what he can do with elite running backs in his offense. And I forgot to mention this on the quarterback episode, but Justin Herbert is my bold prediction to finish QB1. So, like I said, I am fully buying into this Chargers offense under Mike McDaniel. And we saw Marion Hampton's elite upside last year 6 of 9 games with 13 plus PPR points, 3 of 9 games with 20 plus PPR points. Injuries did derail his rookie seasons, but not only his injury, his offensive line injury. It doesn't look great right now. Tyler Biotis went down, the center for the Los Angeles Chargers. Does not look like he's going to be there to start the season. He injured his ACL. I don't know how bad it is, but I saw that earlier today. Not great. However, I think they're going to be playing more 21 personnel. They signed Alec Ingold, a veteran fullback from Miami, familiar face for Mike McDaniel, in a familiar face for this run scheme. So I really like Omari Hampton. I have him RB9 right now, and I'm one higher than expert consensus and one higher than ADP. He's currently going RB10 right now in PPR League, 16th overall. So you can get him in the middle of round 2. If he falls to you at the end of round 2, I am gladly taking Omari and Hampton in drafts this year. Another breakout candidate, an RB1 candidate in round 1. He's currently going 10th overall, RB7. It's Ashton Genty with Clint Kubiak's run scheme coming in. It adds a much needed versatility to this Raiders offense that struggled last year. I just think they didn't have the right coaches on the staff. I think Clint Kubiak's run scheme is going to benefit Ashton Genty a lot more this year. We saw what he did in Seattle. We saw what he did in New Orleans. He knows how to scheme it up. He knows how to run a great offense. And it's going to be a little tougher in Las Vegas because the wide receiver room is just not as great. Luckily, they have Brock Bowers to take some receiving uh, pressure off of just the run game in general. They have Bowers more so, and then they also have Michael Mayer, so they can definitely um, do a better job at scheming up runs and maybe running 2 tight end sets. And they also added O line depth with the best center in the league, Tyler Linderbaum from Baltimore. Last year, Ashton Genty was RB16 in points per game, and he averaged just 3.7 yards per carry. Definitely need him to increase that this year. However, last year it wasn't due to Ashton Genty not breaking tackles. It was more so due to his offensive line struggling to get him open looks in the run game. The running back yards after contact and tackles avoided per carry. Ashton Genty is like far into the right in that graph right now. He nearly avoided 30% of tackles per carry, and then yards after contact per carry, he was at 4.3 yards after contact per carry. That's higher than his yards per carry at 3.7. And it's not like he didn't have the volume last year. He had 266 rushes, 55 receptions. I think that's going to be there again. They know what they have in Ashton Genty. Now, Mike Washington Jr. is there. Great running back addition for the Las Vegas Raiders behind Ashton Genty. I'm not too scared about him taking rushes away from Genty because Genty is a generational running back talent. We saw it at Boise State. We've seen it last year in some runs. He definitely had some great runs last year for the Raiders. I think this is going to be a revamped offense, and I like Ashton Genty a lot this season. Now, lastly, get into the busts. This is where running backs I am super scared of this year. And one of them is a top 10 running back, same as last year, called the Saquon Barkley bust. He did not make a RB1 finish last season. Now, was that due to his O line being injured? Maybe. Was that due to him being tired after a season of a ton of touches? I think it was his career high in touches. Maybe. Um, that's why I wouldn't draft him. Um, so this is why I think Christian McCaffrey is going to be a bust. He's coming off a league high 400 plus touches, I think 430 to be exact. And there's a curse of 370 touches. There are 11 instances where a running back passed 370 touches the year prior. And after that, their next season, they struggle to perform in fantasy. Let's start it off with David Johnson in 2016. He scored over 400 fantasy points in a PPR league. Next year, he did get injured, scored less than 100 fantasy points. Was that due to injury? I mean, obviously it was, but at the same time, it shows you that the wear and tear on their bodies as athletes does not hold up. 2017, Le'Veon Bell scored over 300 fantasy points in PPR leagues, barely eclipsed 200 fantasy points in 2017. Ezekiel Elliott, the only running back to be pretty close to what he finished the year prior. He scored just over 300 fantasy points in 2018 and 2019. So he definitely performed. I'd say the best out of all these running backs I'm going to list. Christian McCaffrey in 2019 scored over 400 plus fantasy points, and he scored less than 100 fantasy points the next season. Derrick Henry scored about 325, maybe a little more than that. Did not eclipse 200 fantasy points in 2021. Jonathan Taylor, 2021, scored nearly 400 fantasy points and did not eclipse 200 fantasy points the next season. Najee Harris scored 300 fantasy points, came up short of 300, came up short of 250 the year after. Derrick Henry, again, 300 fantasy points, 250 the next year. I mean, and then after that, it was Josh Jacobs in 2022. Saquon Barkley in 2024 scored 350 plus fantasy points in PPR leagues. Last year, barely eclipsed 200. Christian McCaffrey scored over 400 fantasy points in PPR leagues last year. I do not think he eclipses 300. He may not even eclipse 200. So that is something to watch for. And you can see on this graph, I'm just going to show this graph so you can see it real quick. Give me 1 second. Uh, let's do this one. You can see this graph right here. Christian McCaffrey not gonna do well this year, I think. So there we go. All right, let's keep going on bus. Jeremiah Love up next. Jeremiah Love is going to be an ADP bust, in my opinion, going as RB 13, 27th overall. Would rather have Javante, Kyron, Josh Jacobs, and Brees later. Would not feel comfortable having Jeremiah Love as my RB1. He's going to be splitting touches with Tyler Algier. Will he pay off his value? Doubtful. James Conner and Trey Benson. He's going to be splitting with them too. Chances are one of those two gets traded in James Conner and Trey Benson. If he falls, uh I'd hope he falls. That's like why I would draft him is if he falls cuz right now he's going as RB 13, 27th overall and I've got him let's see. PPR leagues, I've got Jeremiah Love at RB 16 and I've got him, I think like 37th. Yeah, 37th overall, which I'm higher than experts, but his ADP is insanely high compared to where the experts are ranking him right now. I think expert consensus rankings has him about 34th overall. I've got him, or no, sorry, 40th overall. I've got him at 37th overall. And then the ADP where everyone's drafting him is like 27th overall. So he's going top 30 in majority of drafts, which I don't love. You can get him for cheaper on CBS leagues. He's going as RB 15 on CBS leagues, so you can get him a little cheaper on there. But be cautious about Jeremiah Love. He's already injured. He's got a tough schedule, not a great O line. Definitely a good play caller in Mike LaFleur, but at the same time, that just doesn't trump everything. You have to be cautious when drafting this rookie because one, he's going to split touches. Two, tough schedule. Not a great three, not a great offensive line. And four, he's going way too high for my liking. He's on like borderline RB1 right now. Blake, Blake with the comment. Yeah, Josh Jacobs actually may be the RB1 overall out of every single running back, Blake, because he's been working in his strength training in the offseason. Although Blake, he may get suspended, is what I hear because of he punched someone. Travis Etienne is next up on my bus. Now, this kind of goes hand in hand with the ADP situation. Him being, let's see here, he's RB 19, 41st overall. I would take DeAndre Swift ahead of him. I currently have DeAndre Swift ranked ahead of him. I need to move DeAndre Swift up even more. And then honestly, this play calling situation with Kellen Moore doesn't like throwing to his running backs. That's a little worrisome. They were second worst in the NFL in yards per carry last year. Offensive line worries, 3.7 yards per carry. Like I said, second lowest in the NFL. Not great for ETN, but hey, is Kellen Moore doing something because he went and got ETN? New faces in new places. This is one of them this year. Uh, last year, the team RB fantasy points for the Kellen Moore offense in New Orleans, 32nd, dead last in the NFL. In Philly, he was 6th overall. Thank you, Saquon Barkley. And then with the Chargers in 2023, he was dead last again. And then in Dallas in 2021 and 2022, he was top 5. Tony Pollard, and I don't know if Zeke was there in 21, but we'll credit both of them for those top 5 finishes. RB 19 and ADP is a little too rich. I've got him at RB 23. Like I said, I would really like Swift as my RB2. And let's go into some league winners. Chase Brown, Bashal Tootin, Kenneth Walker, Omarion Hampton, Javante Williams, Ashton Genty. I know a lot of these guys are going in rounds 1 and 2, but I think Bashal Tutin and Javante Williams can provide value later. I'm going to put DeAndre Swift in that category of league winners as well. I'm actually going to move him up after this episode to RB 19. I'm going to move him up to RB 19 because, or wait, let me see. Yeah, I'm going to move him up to RB 19. He's going to be at the top of my tier 6 after this. So Swift is going to be RB 19. Scottaboo will be RB 20. Judkins will be RB 21. And Bucky Irving. Actually, no. Judkins will be RB 22. Bucky Irving will be RB 21. Stay where he is. And then now let's go into some draft strategy. So, first off, I want to go into different formats. So, you got standard, you got half PPR, and you have PPR. Standard and half PPR, your running backs are going to be a little more valuable. You're going to value those true runners like your Derrick Henry, like your Saquon Barkley, um, Jonathan Taylor is another good one. You won't necessarily downgrade Gibbs and Bijan just because it's a standard league. I still think they would be 1 and 2 in all drafts. But definitely receivers will take a backseat to running backs. I mean, I think even in half PPR, you still should value some of these running backs a little higher than wide receivers. Full PPR, you can make a case like right now in full PPR for my rankings. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got half of my top 12 is wide receivers. I might change that. I don't think Justin Jefferson should be going at 12. I might move Achan ahead of him. Um, but still, that's a PPR league. So be conscious of what league format you are drafting in. I still think, regardless of format, you should draft one running back in the first 2 picks of your draft, preferably in round 1. If you have an earlier pick, it may be hard to do if you don't have 1 and 2, because 3 through 6 ish, I'd feel better about wide receivers, but around 6 ish, I would maybe reach on a running back if I wanted to, like a Chase Brown, a Jonathan Taylor, a James Cook. I could pull a trigger on any 3 of those guys, um, over Jackson Smith and Jigba and feel comfortable about it. But Jamar Chase, Puka Nakua, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think those 3 are locked in, right after Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson. So try and grab one running back in the first 2 picks. Like I said, if you have like picks 3 through 5 or 6, you're probably going to be looking at a running back at the back end of round 2. And that's going to be like your Kenneth Walker, your Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, maybe Omarion Hampton falls to you. That would be awesome. But guys like that are going to be in this range where you can look for them. So, um, that's why I want at least my starting running back in the first 2 rounds. And then I would try and grab at least 2 to 3 running backs by round 6. So after round 5, I would like to have my 2 starting running backs locked up. And then after that, you can take some flyers on some other running backs. But guys, I like to target in the later like rounds 3 through 5 are going to be Kyron Williams, Javante Williams, Josh Jacobs, maybe, but you got to worry about a suspension. Brees Hall, if he falls, I would like him in PPR leagues more than anything, but he's already hurt a little bit. Bashal Tutin is a guy that I want in all leagues, starting mid round 4, like I discussed earlier. And then, like I said, you can take some flyers late on some guys that I was talking about. So try and get 1 to 2 of your top 12 if possible, then follow it up with a solid RB2 before round 6. This is definitely more difficult to do if you take a quarterback before round 6. This is why on the quarterback preview episode, Tanner and I both were saying hold off on the quarterbacks. You can get good ones late, you can get good value late. If you want to take a Josh Allen, by all means, go for it. But be cautious because then you're going to worry about your depth at either running back, maybe wide receiver. Wide receiver seems a little deeper than the running back position this year. Um, Now you're hoping some guys bounce back because of that, but that's just how it is. So definitely recapping draft strategy, try and get one in your first two picks of the draft, get two by round end of round five, maybe get three by the end of round five, and then after that, take some flyers on some late guys like Jordan Mason, Rashad White, Jonathan Brooks. I don't know if you can go a late flyer on him. He's moving up draft boards. Tank Bigsby, some handcuff running backs that I think could do well. Chris Rodriguez, I'd be fine with that. Little handcuff to Bashal Tootin. So that is going to do it for the running back episode. A little shorter, which is nice. Just over 30 minutes for you guys. Thank you all for tuning in. If you did on the live stream, if you're listening, appreciate you listening on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcast. Thank you for listening to the BA Sports Podcast. And we'll catch you next time for the wide receiver preview. Hopefully Tanner's back for that one and we can both tackle it. You can get our sleepers, breakouts, busts, rankings, and we'll go over some draft strategy for the wide receiver position as well. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to the BA Sports Podcast, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Have a great Thursday. Have a great Friday, whatever day you're listening to this. Have a great weekend. Hopefully, you do amazing on your drafts this weekend if you are drafting. Feel free to shoot any questions at BA Sports Podcast on Instagram, at BA Sports Podcast on X. And yeah, we'll catch you next time. Have a good one.